everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dominique Martin, a licensed therapist. Today, we're talking about one of the most painful experiences in a relationship. Slowly realizing that I don't feel understood by my partner. And not because there isn't love, but because somewhere along the way, the relationship stopped feeling emotionally safe, emotionally connected, or emotionally fulfilling. And this is where resentment quietly begins. Not in one moment, but in the little moments when your feelings get dismissed, or when your stress goes unnoticed, or when your needs feel invisible, and when you stop bringing things up because you assume you already know how the conversation will go. Over time, couples start carrying silent emotional disappointments that never fully get addressed. And eventually, those disappointments turn into distance, and you become more reactive, more defensive, or more emotionally tired. And the relationship starts feeling heavier instead of comforting. And many couples think the problem is communication, when the deeper issue is emotional understanding. Because when partners don't feel understood, they stop feeling connected. And when they stop feeling connected, unmet needs and resentment begins showing up in the relationship. So in this video, we're going to talk about what resentment actually is, how unmet emotional needs develop between couples, and the behaviors that quietly damage connection, and most importantly, how to start repairing the emotional distance between you and your partner before it grows deeper. So, what many couples don't realize is this: resentment rarely sounds like "I resent you." Instead, it sounds like "I'm tired," or "I can't do this anymore," or "You never understand me," or "I always feel emotionally alone in this relationship." And underneath almost every resentment issue in relationships, there are unmet emotional needs that have been maybe ignored, missed, or misunderstood for too long, because most couple conflicts are about something deeper. So the fear of not being valued, or not feeling emotionally safe, or not feeling important to their partner. And when couples stop feeling emotionally understood, resentment starts replacing connection. So, resentment is an accumulation of emotional pain that never gets resolved. It's what happens when someone repeatedly feels dismissed, emotionally abandoned, criticized, unseen, unimportant, and eventually stops believing things will change. At first, partners may try to communicate their needs. They may ask for more affection, more help, more attention, or more emotional presence. But when those needs are repeatedly misunderstood or minimized, something shifts emotionally. Disappointment turns into frustration, and frustration turns into emotional withdrawal. And eventually, this is why resentment changes the entire emotional atmosphere of a relationship. Conversations become more reactive, and patience becomes shorter, and affection may become harder. And what's difficult is that many couples think that resentment means that the relationship is failing. But often, resentment is actually a sign that an important emotional needs have gone unrecognized for too long. And when partners don't feel emotionally understood, they start protecting themselves instead of connecting. And that's the pattern many couples get stuck in. But here's the important part: most resentment is rooted in pain that hasn't been understood, not just ignored, misunderstood. So, how does lack of understanding creates unmet needs? So, sometimes couples may assume that if my partner cared about me, they would just know what I need. But relationships don't work that way. Your partner experiences the world through their own history, fears, communication style, and emotional processes. And if partners don't fully understand what the other is emotionally needing, then both partners may end up with unmet needs. This is where resentment starts growing quietly. Not because love disappeared, but because understanding did. So let's talk about some common relationship behaviors that slowly build resentment and unmet needs. One is defensiveness. And what that sometimes can look like is when one partner expresses hurt and the other immediately explains, minimizes, or argues instead of listening. Two, emotional withdrawal. And so that can look like shutting down, avoiding conversations, or emotionally checking out during conflict. Three is criticism, and that can look like constant complaining, sarcasm, or making your partner feel like they can never get it right. Four is scorekeeping, and that can look like tracking who does more, sacrifices more, or puts forth more effort, or who hurts more. And five is assuming instead of asking. And this can look like believing you already know your partner's intentions instead of asking or getting curious about their experience. All of these behaviors slowly break down emotional safety. And without emotional safety, needs may stop being expressed honestly. So now let's shift to how to recognize resentment in yourself or your partner. Sometimes resentment is obvious, and other times it shows up in subtle ways. So you may notice feeling emotionally distant towards your partner, or getting irritated over small things, or avoiding affection, or feeling unappreciated all the time, or having the same unresolved argument repeatedly, or feeling lonely inside of the relationship. And your partner may also stop sharing openly because they no longer believe they'll be understood. And this is important. Resentment is often a signal that emotional needs have gone unaddressed for too long. So you may be wondering how to repair resentment and rebuild connection. So, how do couples begin repairing this? First, stop focusing only on the argument. Start focusing on the emotional experience underneath the argument. Second is learn your partner's emotional meaning. Ask questions like, what does this situation feel like for you? Or what do you need most from me right now? Or what hurts the most about this for you? Understanding creates connection, and connection reduces resentment. Third, take accountability without immediately defending yourself. A healing response may sound something like, I can understand how that hurt you. Validation is not the same as agreeing with everything. It means your partner's emotional experience matters to you. Fourth is express needs clearly and directly. Your partner can consistently meet needs that they don't fully understand. And also, rebuild emotional safety through small, consistent actions, not just grand gestures. So, listening fully, following through, showing appreciation, and being emotionally present. Let me say this. Healing resentment takes repeated moments of feeling understood. If you're dealing with resentment in your relationship, sometimes it's a sign partners have been hurting silently for too long without truly understanding each other. Healthy relationships are built by emotional understanding, honesty, and repair. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more relationship insights. As always, stay motivated, and I'll see you on the next video.